I'm going to turn the time over to Phil Parent of
Yes.
Shy Pottery.
Hi. I'm sorry, I was showing him a picture of my granddaughter.
Yeah, we used to work together.
Skip and I used to work together way back in the
For
day.
years.
So the, come up here.
Sure.
And what was the, I'm sorry.
Well, this is supposed to, is David on his way?
I don't know, I stopped by the office.
He was
and
on the
asked where
phone.
this conference room was.
So he's on his way.
Okay. Okay, well, maybe I should turn the time over to him, but for now, go ahead and, I guess, lay out what David wanted to share. Did he go over that with you at
No,
all?
he did not.
Okay.
I can explain and describe the project.
Okay, go ahead and do that.
All right, we, several years ago, we were contracted, Shy Pottery was contracted to design a new maintenance facility as a result of a study that was made of their existing facility. The new maintenance building was going to be located on Nevada and the 118th. Am I calling that right? And so we went ahead and proceeded with those drawings. I think June of 2017. How are you? June of 2017, we finished those drawings and basically put them in for waiting for direction from Warren County on when to send them out. Since then, we were asked to do the drawings for the two storage buildings, a heated storage building and a cold storage building, which will be part of the complex also. And we're in the process right now of finishing those drawings up. And we're probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 70% done. Our deadline is to have them done by May 17th, if I remember the date right.
Okay, now this is different from the first set of drawings that you did?
Yes. The first
How
set
is
of,
it different?
the first set of drawings was the maintenance building. And, oh, I'm sorry. I'm Bogarting, may I? The first building was the maintenance building, which consists of the mechanics area where they do maintenance on the apparatus and the equipment. I also included an office area, break room. It had the sign department in the facility, and it also had some heated storage for some of the pieces of equipment, and then an indoor wash bay.
Okay.
And that was the maintenance building. Now the storage buildings don't have any of that. They're just a wide open building where trucks and equipment's going to be parked.
And so we're breaking the plans up into phases then?
Well, we haven't been told to do any phases. Right now we have the drawings all in one package. We can easily break them up into phases.
Okay.
And send it out that way. That's not a problem.
I'm trying to find an email that was forwarded to me of some documents that you sent, or did you send that to me, about the maintenance shop. And I think it's a breakdown of costs.
It looks something like this.
Yes.
Okay. I do have one copy.
Okay. I'll share that with everybody else. I'm pretty sure this went out to the full board.
I know originally I sent it to David and Aaron, who we had a meeting to discuss this particular project, and I sent to them, and then I don't know if David then forwarded on to.
That's right, it was sent to Aaron and then forwarded to me. Okay, so it must be in my engineer folder.
And from my perspective, the reality was that with the price tag attached to it, it just seemed to me like I wanted to be realistic in moving this project forward, because we've already spent as a county a considerable sum in getting the shop site and Nevada paved. And so I wanted to be realistic in moving this forward. And at the price tag that's sort of presented to the board, it didn't seem to me as though that was going to be a reality with the full-fledged project cost. And so I thought that it would be better to break this into phases. And so I met with our representative from Shy, as well as David Carroll, to discuss phasing it in one, in two, at least 2 or 3 phases, but probably 2 was my general thoughts.
And I guess breaking it into phases, from your perspective, would be a cost savings to our,
Well, no, I mean, the reality is if we had the money to do it, it wouldn't be a cost savings to break it into phasing, but we don't have the money to do it, so.
okay, let me rephrase that. So it would not be a hit to our reserves as much if we did it in phases. Because we still have to issue $20 million for the rest of the courthouse and jail. So that's what we need to be looking at.
It would be a lesser impact to our reserves, but it would still be an impact to the reserves.
Okay, well, this is, do you want to go through some of these numbers? Now, okay, you have 2017, it's just basically showing the difference from waiting from 2017 to 2019?
Yes, yes, we have did research and found that the cost of construction increased approximately 5.25% each year. And so we have calculated that out on each one of these items to give a today cost, actually a June of 2019 cost, not a today cost, but June of 2019, when the project is anticipated to go out to bid. You know, with your guys' approval, of course.
Okay.
And then, so that's where we did. Now, we added a couple of things to the scope. I gave it, we added a couple of things to the project, and those are then straight line items that I added in under 2019. I think that was the salt storage. The 3 salt storage buildings was the $500,000. Was a 2019 cost that we put in.
Okay, I was trying to do my best to summarize where we're at, David, so I know you don't know what we've talked about, but did you have something prepared that you wanted to
No,
say here?
I think the ball's kind of in the board's court now.
Okay, we're coming up with the money to either do this in full or to do this in phases. So if we're gonna do this in a 2-year phase, how much money are we looking at this year and then next year?
Well, it depends on how you break it up.
Oh,
But
okay.
let's say if you
How,
did,
what would be the best way to break this up?
The less phases, the better, but it's whatever we can get.
okay, you know, the first phase could be just the maintenance building. And we have a price tag for the maintenance building of 2.758. And that has general conditions, contractor profit, and the whole bit. And then we have a heated storage building, which is 1.276. And then we have the cold storage building, which is $664,000. These are all just rounded numbers. And you add in a little bit of contingency, you would have some costs for inspections, special inspections, printing cost, send it out. So it'll be a little bit above that on each one of those little projects, not divvied up on each one. So let's say 2.8 for the first project, 1.3 for the second one, and then 675 for the last one. And that doesn't include.
But that doesn't include those 5% cost increases each year.
I was going by the 2019.
By 2019,
which
so-
is June of 2019
Correct.
cost.
So
Bill,
based
that
on-
thing tallies up to about 6, doesn't it?
Yes.
And this maybe tallies up to 4.
Am I missing something?
I don't
Oh, the
know.
site work. I forgot the site work. I apologize. The site work itself is $1,010,000. Does that kind of bring us up there
I
then?
think so, yeah.
I know the county has done some work out there, and they're gonna provide some services, like, I think the gravel,
Yeah,
gets spread, but there's, some concrete work that needs to be done, some grading work, and,
and if we need to too, on some of those cold storage, heated storage buildings, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's not really a crazy practice to get the foundations in, get the building up, but leave the floor actually gravel or unpoured and then come back and pour it later.
right, yeah.
So there's some cost savings there we could do in some of those buildings,
Mm-hmm.
where at least we have the foundation and the shell and insulation up, but we can pour the floor later.
So, yeah, I mean, you can even do that too.
Kind of cut into some of those costs.
I guess what we can do is kind of decide what that number is, and then put in the pieces with a couple of alternate bids, and so that we, at bid day, we can then adjust it to meet that budget number.
Yes, we're to the point where we decide to move forward, we just need to know year one is this dollar amount, year two is this, 3, 4, 5, however many years we want it to take, if at all.
Okay. How
But,
much to do it
yeah.
all right now in 2019?
And to do it all,
For June 9th?
5.5.
I got 6,024,000, 25,000, by the time you round it up, plus 500,000 for the salt storage buildings.
Okay, because that's done completely
That-
separate.
Yeah, that's done completely separate. The company that I talked to does all the engineering, they do all the drawings, they do the approvals, and then we just had to find somebody to install them.
Okay,
So
and then I'm showing almost a $300,000 cost to doing this into phases per year. Is that about
Mhm.
what I figured?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually 294,000. Okay, all right. But it is what it is.
I'll weigh in. My general thoughts are this. I think the county, prior to my election and seat on the board in January, I think we're in for about $7 million. Is that fair?
Already? Mhm.
Is that about right?
You're talking about the road.
Paving the road, getting the site ready.
Sounds high, but
It might be six or seven.
We're 7 million into the site,
The reality is that
it's not.
we've got an unfinished project. We've spent a lot of resources on this project. Whether or not people at this point like the location or don't like the location is irrelevant to me. It is what it is. I mean, we're not going backwards from the 7 million that we've already, we have the skin in the game for 7. I didn't choose it, I didn't do it, that's where we're at. And so, the one thing I will tell you is, I visited the shop site. We have some buildings there that are not, I think we're not allowed legally to keep items there. I mean, I looked at the metal that comes down to the ground, and there's a gap about there. And so people can't earnestly be there in the building because, or we probably legally as a county can't store equipment there because in the event that it all breaks down, which it might, we're going to get sued. Someone is going to die, or a truck is going to get smashed to bits when the roof collapses. Like, this is a project that makes sense to me. It just comes down to how do we pay for it? I mean, that's the reality. It's not whether or not we need it. We need it. We need it. It stinks that we have to spend some money. I don't like it. It's a lot of money. I know that David has up to $2 million in his engineer's budget to contribute, and that's helpful. But we don't have $6 million. We don't have $4 million in reserves sitting there saying, hey, let's burn $4 million on reserve. We don't have it. So I think logically we have to phase it. I don't think at this point with the sunk cost that we have of $7 million, we can go and say, hey, let's make those lots or let's make them something else. That isn't gonna get us a return for the money that we've already sunk into this. So I think we have to sort of pay to play to where we're at. I just wanna do it as economically as possible. And if that means phase one is 2.7 or $3 million, and David, the engineer's budget kicks in a good chunk of that, and we find some money, then we have to find some money. And we do phase one. And then we do phase 2 or 3 in the next couple of years. I mean, I wanna get it done in my 4 years that I'm here. But we have to get it done. It's not fun. It's not fun. But I don't wanna graduate from this position in 4 years and go back to private practice or something else and be like, we didn't address it. That's not smart considering we've already spent $7 million on it and we just have to do it. I don't like how we do it, but I think the plan and impetus now is how do we do it as effectively as possible? And that's why we're here, in my mind.
Well, also given the other obligations we have staring at us, so that's the reason why we can't do this all at once. What is the efficiency of you having this shop mean for your department?
One reason alone is just not driving through the middle of Indianola to get our crews out to the roads every day. I mean, just saving 15 minutes to half an hour every day to get our guys on the road, and eventually with the master plan having the satellite shops, I mean, right there, 15 minutes a day, maybe like a 3% operational increase in efficiency. When you look at $8 and $9 million budgets, 3% goes a long way every year just in travel costs to get out of the city. They're weaving around school buses and everyone else that's coming into town or leaving town. We can't wash our equipment adequately right now. The mechanics facility is too small to work on.
Why can't you wash your vehicle?
We wash our equipment outside because the wash bay is too small to even fit a pickup inside of it. So we just generally wash stuff out in the mud. But when we can do a good job kind of getting the exterior of the vehicle clean, but it's pretty hard to wash off the frames of the vehicles, and when the frames of the vehicles start rusting, that's when we really start to lose the life on these things. And just the cost of one of those motor graders is approaching $300,000, so to lose a little bit of life on one motor grader that costs that much to even purchase is kind of dollars wasted at that point.
And that's my general thought while we're here. And that's why we're all here today, is because the cost of replacing equipment that is not used in its full anticipated useful life is meaningful for our county. It is a lot of money for our county. The fact that we've sunk $7 million prior to today into the site, whether that's right or wrong or indifferent, it doesn't really matter. It's just what's happened. And so that is the sort of the hand that we've been dealt. And we know that if we can extend the useful life of our equipment by 5 years-ish, by having them stored inside, by having a wash bay that helps remove rust issues or other things, I'm not saying it makes money for us, but it saves money in the long run. And so this is a painful decision in the short run, but in the long run, it's probably a smart decision to start getting after this. And I'm fully on board with doing this in phases. I don't love the cost. I think it's a lot of money. I just think that with what we already have sunk for cost into it, that it doesn't make sense from my perspective to deviate from the course. So let's find a way where we can allocate the necessary resources to do phase one. Let's find a way where maybe we start doing a bond for general service purposes that maybe affects the sheriff's department next year for up to $750,000. And then we use the $750,000 that we were going to give to the sheriff's department. Let's then apply that to this project in year 2 for phase 2. I mean, there's ways to do it, but I think it's short-sighted to say at this point, hey, you got a spot, it's not perfect, deal with it. It doesn't make sense to me. So let's find a way to pay for it. Let's move it forward. but in phases, because we don't have the money to do it.
And really, this all came about in 2011 from a study that was addressed to the Board of Supervisors stating that we needed a new shop site, which was what selected the area where we're at today. And that 2011 study lists a lot of these reasons why it is inefficient to run a large-scale operation like this out of the middle of a medium-sized city with either buildings that are condemned or buildings that are not the correct size to facilitate our needs.
And one of the other things that I've not heard a response back yet is our current shop site sits in town. There's value to those acres. I don't know that Indianola still wants to buy it or someone else wants to buy it. But my guess is in a year's time, it's not gonna be immediate, but in a year's time, it is conceivable that someone would like to buy, how many acres are there, David?
6 to 7.
6 to 7 in-town acres where, I mean, if there's, like, what we have there, most of which is garbage buildings. I mean, so we knock them down and we sell it for development. That has value. So one of the things I don't know, because I'm not a legal scholar and I don't know exactly how we got the ground in the first place, but if we can have that ground free and clear of any other issues upon selling it, and I don't know that we do, or maybe the co-op has some aspect to it, I don't know. But I'd like to know that, and so I think we need to do some research with respect to what
Like
is our...
environmental things?
No, I mean, as to, was the ground donated to the county? I
Oh,
don't
you
know.
mean in the past?
It might have been.
I wouldn't
It-
think so, yeah.
Is there some sort of a hitch where if the county ever sells the ground, it reverts back to the original ownership or their beneficiaries? I don't know. But I'd like to know that answer, because that's material, because my guess is 7 acres in town in Indianola is worth something. And so that plus sort of my bonding idea for year 2 amounts to a good chunk of money. It's not gonna be immediate money, but it's money for a future phase. So, but I hate being short-sighted. I don't like the hand that's dealt perfectly, but it is what it is, and I can't change it, and we've sunk 7 million. That's what happened. So, are we gonna keep going forward, or are we gonna say, oh, it's expensive, we can't do it, so let's just keep going the way we're going? That doesn't work. So, I'm in for phases. I don't know how it all looks yet, but those are my thoughts.
And we keep using the word spending dollars, but I kind of use the word investing dollars. You're investing in our future. You know, everyone wants to say we're spending down some pot of money, but what about investing in the long term for the county? So
I think there needs to be an upfront investment before we truly can start saving again as a county.
because an investment shows a return, but spending's just spending.
Right.
Oh, I get that, David. I mean, I get.
I know,
that.
that's
No, I don't. I mean, we're on a recorded deal here, so hello, Facebook Live or wherever we're going. But you know, my thought is we will save money in the long haul. You start taking $200,000 machines and expanding their life by 5 years. That adds up.
Yeah.
That literally adds up to money that's now not being budgeted for future machine replacement as fast, because now we're storing it, we're washing it, we're knocking the salt off, we're knocking the mud off. I agree, there is some investment aspect to it, and I'm good with it. I just struggle with the how do we pay for it aspect.
Well, I think the overall master plan for the county is on hold because the shop site is sized like there's 4 satellite shops surrounded around the county serving the public. So if and when the shop site gets built, now we can start turning our attention to these satellite shops where we can have an even greater response time and spread the rock and the salt sand around the county and really make a big difference around the rural areas. But right now, like we've all mentioned and know, we're running out of a central location with just about everything other than some of our satellite shops now where the equipment might be parked outside.
Now, because of our recent weather and problems that we've had with complaints, how would this improve your respond, I mean, what would be different and how you would react to things like that, or like?
I
in
don't
the
think
future?
it would change the quantity of material of the roads, it's just the equipment that's hauling the material is gonna last longer, and, you know, the facilities might be a little more efficient to haul the material. I mean, even in looking at my salt sand order for next year, I can only get 1,000 ton of salt in because that's all we can store. Well, it'd be ideal to get, say, 1,500 ton or 2,000 ton pre-ordered when the prices are cheaper, but we just can't do that because we can't store it. So now we gotta pay higher dollar in salt post-season because we don't have facilities to store enough. Just things like that where it's, your existing facilities are functionally obsolete, structurally deficient, and don't really serve a purpose anymore for what we do.
And those nuances just bug the dickens out of me. I mean, if there's a chance to buy salt in bulk at a cheap, non-winter price, there's savings there for the people that pay taxes. I mean, that's what this is about. It's how do we long-term net, not just today, not just by making an expenditure or an investment or a cost or whatever you want to call it today, but how do we long-term net save money for the people that own property in Warren County? And if part of that is, and it's not just this decision, it's all county decisions. We have to start focusing on what is the big picture, long-term net savings for the people that actually own stuff here, so that we're not just being inefficient at best. It drives me nuts. But if there's a way to buy salt when it's June, where no one in the world's buying salt, and you can acquire your salt load for half the cost of what it costs when it's salt emergency land in January, that makes sense to me.
Yeah, because you don't want to run into a severe winter where you run out of salt, but that could very well happen because you can only store 1,000.
When all the counties have a spring thaw and we have to buy rock in every freaking county in the state of Iowa because we have a thaw and the price goes up, I'd rather have a stockpile of rock in our county in June. I mean, I get that it costs money. I don't like that it costs money. I don't like that. But let's be smart long-term in the decisions that we make. Drives me nuts.
Do you guys take questions?
Sure.
Sewer, are you using a septic tank or do you have?
Yes,
sewer?
there's a septic tank.
And then of course, that size is with however many buildings you have, but how about water runoff? Because with salt trucks and all of that equipment, you're gonna have to do special water runoff and capture of the oil and salt.
We have that already
That's
taken
in
care
there?
of. That's in there.
And the water's already there,
Mm-hmm.
and it's big enough?
Yes.
Phone,
I believe, yeah, there's communications, yes.
internet,
Mm-hmm.
and then
We're gonna get a cell tower right next to you too. Right?
Yeah, we were gonna
Yeah,
beam a
it's-
signal over there for the short term with internet before we run a fiber optic, or we're just gonna bite the bullet, run the fiber optic if this gets built. Volume.
energy efficiencies, have you considered passive solar?
As in what type?
Windows,
Yeah, we do have windows.
and they're large enough and calculated with overhangs
We,
so that you
we,
can do
yes,
the passive.
we put the windows high up in the space to throw the light as far back into the space as we can. We set the light fixtures on I believe they're programmable so that it records the daylight and adjusts so that we don't have all the lights on.
And your
Or we get dual switching, I think is what it was.
overhangs are calculated so that from approximately October to March, you get sunshine in.
Oh, I don't know if we went that
summer.
far there, Skip.
It's an easy calculation.
We even burn our used oil for heat, I mean, we take it that far.
That's a good thing.
We do have the window set back into a jamb of the exterior wall, and then there's also a steel tube that runs across the top of the heads, because sometimes their drivers get a little crazy and leave the beds up. And so we're protecting the building and then a steel tube instead of knock down the building. So we have that to protect those windows.
Are you using, and we did this at Northern Warren Fire, we did radiant heat in the floors, and what we found is you open the doors, you don't lose all your heat. You close the doors, within 2 minutes it's heated.
That would have been nice. We
It
didn't
is
do.
more expensive, but it does save
Yeah.
a boatload of money.
It is, it's a nice system,
But you have to have the money to make those front-end investments in the
That's
first
right.
place.
and so we talked about it, we didn't put it in.
Have you put in there the ability to possibly put in solar panels?
Well, on a steel building, pre-engineered metal building, which is the most economical way to build it, we can't put anything on the roof. So if
What's
you,
the slope of the roof?
well, it doesn't matter, because the steel buildings are designed to be minimal load capacities. So
Well-
you can't add additional weight. They don't even like us putting on rooftop units on top of those things.
Unless you
Tell
actually engineer it to have that
Yes,
additional capacity.
yeah, so if you want to do solar, which is not a problem, but I just think it'd have to be a standalone system that's maybe, they got a butterfly field.
Yeah, and-
We called it the
And when you look at the 40-acre site, only 20 is buildable, so that's not to say that,
Oh, sure.
you know, on the south side, there could be things like that in the future.
Yeah.
Wind turbines, you name it.
And, you know, a couple of years ago, solar panels are starting to get a better payback now.
Yeah, it's
Even a
still-
couple of years
Still
ago,
20 years.
yeah, a couple of years ago, it was, yeah, don't even bother.
Right, it was over.
But
30.
now they're starting to get to the place where they're starting to do a good payback. So, yeah, it's something that can be added.
And possibly the power company would be willing to do some sort of a deal with that.
I think wind turbine might not be a bad thing, but.
I think that
That
would be.
depends how the recent
That's right,
legislation goes.
Yeah.
I've been hearing a lot of ads about this.
What kind of R values do you have on the walls and roof?
The roof, we have an R value of, let me do my calculations, R14. And on the roof, calculations of R24. And this is all the top of my head, Skip, don't hold me to it.
I thought it's that fiberglass or foam? It probably
It's
should
foam,
be.
the exterior walls are foam in place, are foam in place metal wall panels. So they're two
Oh, I
metal-
see, they're sandwiched.
yeah, there's a sandwich panel with foam in between. And then on the roof itself, I think we didn't do, it's fiberglass.
What we had done at the fire station is we put in a layer at the bottom of the trusses of plywood. We put 2 foot of insulation blown into that layer,
Mm-hmm.
and then you could vent above it.
Mm-hmm.
That gave us much greater than even an R19. We were sitting at something like, what the heck is fiber? It would be 4 times, it'd be an R60.
Okay.
And the cost was very reasonable.
All right.
Our walls, rather than using sandwich panels, we used just an outside shell, and then we put a second shell inside the building onto the structure, and that gave us 12 inches of insulation in the walls.
Mhm.
Our utility bills on the fire station, the building is twice as big as the old station, and the utility bills are half of what the old station
Now,
was.
are those, that fire station, are the spaces, all spaces air conditioned?
The entire thing, including the fire base.
We're not here.
And that does make a difference.
We are keeping the temperature at 50 degrees in the,
Mechanic base.
in the mechanic bays, and I think just above 30, 40, I think is what we said. And they are reusing their waste oil to
That's a
heat
great
the
idea.
space. So, you know, as they getting payback on doing some of those things, it might be just,
How about geothermal?
We had that energy rebate, what was the meeting where we met kind of on the conference call?
the CNC
Does that
program
have
with
to do
Mid-American,
this?
yeah.
We went through all the different rebates and things associated with every light fixture.
And they got rid of them.
Did they get rid of
At
that?
the beginning of this year.
But I mean,
They
we
still-
sat down and looked at every wall.
They
fixture.
reduced them greatly, but they still have the CNC program,
On the business side.
yeah. So, yeah, that's something.
Yeah, didn't
Oh.
mean to, were you done?
And well, the only other question I had is, what kind of square foot do you have on each of those facilities?
22,000 on the maintenance building. Let me get my piece of paper out here, I wrote it down. 22,800 on the maintenance building. 16,000 on the heated storage building, and 10,000 on the cold storage building. The salt storage are 40 by 80, which is my calculation, 3,200 each. There's 3 of those.
So they're basically 3,200 times 4, or 3, which is basically 100,000 square feet.
Is that everything?
Mhm.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay, Sammy?
My question is, Dave, do you know the year that structure, existing structure was purchased, and I can look it up?
Which,
The engineer shop?
like the whole property or?
Yeah,
I,
no idea,
no, I
okay,
have no idea.
okay, all right.
Building,
The buildings vary in age and I don't know the
Okay.
actual purchase.
I just wanna make sure that.
And I'm
in
not
the-
sure,
in
it's
the
kind of a
event-
gray area.
Yeah, I wanna make sure that in the event that we sell the existing shop site and 7 acres in town, Indianola, which should be valued pretty well, like there should be.
$6 million.
I don't know about that, sir. I
I
wish you were right, but I think you might be high. If you can bring a buyer for $6 million, I'll take you out for a dinner somewhere.
We'll see what we can do.
But my point is, I wanna make sure that in the event that we do part ways with that site, that we don't have any restrictions or that some of it reverts back. I've heard rumors, but I don't know. I don't like not knowing stuff, so let's find that out.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
I know that the maintenance building that we have on the site was built in the 70s, I think 75 is what we figured out.
Yeah, the actual mechanic shop.
So,
Before then.
yeah, before then.
Okay.
One of those real old buildings, I would estimate is around the corner, so that could be part of the co-op.
Yeah, the original shop that's right next to the roadway is about 1920s.
Pretty good for a metal building.
That one is not in bad shape structurally, there's another one on down the road.
There's one of them that's
Just got
bad.
some,
I walked
just got
through
some
and I'm
boards
like,
missing in the roof and
yeah.
things like that.
One of them that I walked through was not in good shape.
I almost refused to walk through it, 'cause I knew what condition it was, but then Aaron forced me to show him what was going on. And
You got hurt, you had to sign a waiver beforehand.
yeah, I showed him and ran out.
And you don't do it in a snowstorm.
Okay, I get a lot of questions about the gas and the fuel. So what are the plans in the new shop for that?
Just an above ground barrel for secondary roads. So
Okay.
you could keep the system out there for everybody else, but someone would have to administer the system for, the schools and the police.
Okay, so you're saying at the old shop, someone would have to administer it there, but,
We want to dedicate fuel just to ourselves. It's way easier to account for our
Okay.
own fuel and not everyone else's.
okay. So we'd have to come up with other ways for other.
Yeah, our mechanic's spending a good chunk of his time on the fuel system because he's working on equipment.
Really?
Because we have to service it for the entire county.
Do you
And
know how much
even
time?
Herta uses it.
How much time does he spend?
Could be a half hour here, an hour there, could be 5 minutes, but it's time away from our department.
You value, do that for the metal?
Oh, yeah.
I just read on the way.
.037. And then the walls.
Like to, yeah, over to convert.
Yeah, so I couldn't tell you what that is. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Let me think of it. Dang it, I hate when you have architects.
Is that,
I think it's good. It's,
especially me, 'cause
oh,
we worked for, oh gosh, 6, 7 years together.
wow, good.
That's a steel frame structure,
Yes,
rather than the steel panels being structural?
yes. Well, the steel panels, no, are girt, and the other kind of has some structural qualities, but not a whole lot. We are setting it up on a precast concrete wall base,
Oh, sure.
so they get some durability, and not get, like they have right now, the rusting down at the bottom.
That's what I did at the fire station, I just poured a 4-foot wall, or 3-foot
I
wall.
wanted some insulation value, so I used insulated
And then the legislation goes in front of it.
So you're just
I'm just
breaking
kind of writing
down
out
your
a
phases?
summary of some of these totals and see if it's even doable. So this was for heated storage.
eraser?
I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah, he had his hand.
Using a Sharpie on that?
Probably. I don't think so, no.
Okay.
It's just a cheap one. So is that, I'm just trying to sum up some of the numbers that are on the sheet by kind of phases and go from there. The very last phase that isn't included, it's the last item, is the salt shed. I'll just put it as a standalone item. So, I mean, that's kind of the numbers.
And the salt shed is 500,000.
Yeah, it's estimated 500,000. That would be to get a wooden structure up with an asphalt base that's not corrosive to the salt, that the salt can't corrode as easily. But we figure, in the meantime, a hoop building would work just fine, a larger hoop building out there, so it's far cheaper, so that's gonna be our lowest priority building, as long as we can get a hoop building out there if this gets built.
Did you find out if the old one could be moved? Or no?
It might be, my guess is gonna be a lot of labor to move all those concrete blocks, and a lot of them are, with the salt being corrosive, they're corroded down to some of the rebar in them, so it's.
You could start approaching the cost of the new
Yeah, when
building.
we put a new one up, we're gonna definitely, I mean, we're gonna epoxy coat it and do things like that if this gets built. So what I did, I just applied the 5% contingency to this number. So I just added 10% to this number being year 2,
Okay,
15% year 3,
all right.
and then the salt shed is gonna be what it is. So I just, I took
Makes
your
sense.
1.28 and added 10% for,
So then in reality,
as rough numbers.
when we're talking numbers, I mean, engineered budget has about $2 million at max, which really hammers it.
Yeah.
But at max, they
It's
can,
estimated 400,000 fund balance with that 2 million that we put in fiscal year
Yeah, I mean,
20, which leaves a 3% fund balance to
It-
expense ratio.
it doesn't look great.
And we're likely gonna be more towards the million mark with these, you know, we had to budget, do an amendment for $1 million for those landslides, but we don't feel those are gonna cost that much, we just wanna have a placeholder in case we find something
Right, so
crazy
this is, I
underground.
mean, those estimates that we
I
did.
get it,
at the time.
but at the max, the engineers department has about $2 million of the 3.9, almost $4 million to go. So that, therein lies the issue. I mean, it's the, how does the county come up with the first $2 million? I don't wanna spend my time spinning wheels more than we need to. It's where are we getting $2 million from? And in fairness to the courts and the justice center that we're building, you know, some of those reserve dollars are pretty efficiently saved as reserves that we don't blow up our credit rating, and sucking that all down to 0 as well. And so when I met with David and Shai, I told them it would be my preference to have the first phase at, 3-ish, and we're a little north of that, but I don't have the answer. I don't have the answer, but let's figure it out, because it is something that's meaningful and will save us money, I think, in time. And the reality also that we keep skirting around that just drives me nuts is the price of steel going up or down? It's going up. Is the price of labor and construction going up or down? It's going up. Is this building gonna be cheaper to build now, or 3 years ago, or 6 years from now? Like, we're good, we have to build it. We have to build something. And I'm not saying this is perfect, but I hate spinning our wheels and not being efficient where we know it's gonna go up in the future. So let's find a way to find $2 million. And if that's, some of that's bonding, if some of that's reserves, I'm willing to entertain whatever. But I don't know how the best way to make that happen is. But let's figure that out, because I wanna do phase 1.
Okay. So is that some sort of motion that you're trying to make I want to be.
Not
cognizant-
exactly.
Okay, because I wanna be cognizant of the 20.4 million we have remaining to issue. I wanna somehow give them the okay to keep moving forward, but we'll work out the accounting once we know more about the issuance. We haven't even spoken to DA Davison, who is our financial advisor.
I don't wanna do something that gets us sideways with our, I don't wanna go
The
from
SEC.
I don't wanna go from an A to an A minus on our bond rating at
Right.
$20 million for our next issuance. It's gonna cost us another $300,000 or $400,000 because our credit sucks.
Exactly.
Um,
So we need to sit down with our financial advisor,
Well,
figure out what's going on there and what our options are, how we need to move forward to make sure that all these things are happening. In the meantime, we have a 911 communication system that has been approved by the Emergency Management Commission to move forward. So
is it my understanding that's a different debt levy?
it is, but it's still a debt levy, and that would affect our credit. So we need to be mindful of all of these things, and I think the sooner we bring DA Davison on to look at all of these and give us the clear path that we need to go so that we can get all these issuances at the best credit rating we can moving forward, I think that's what we need to.
Well, a quarter point here and there is meaningful when you're talking about $20 million.
Yes.
Like that's real tax dollars
Mhm.
amortized over 20 years. It matters. It matters to me. It should matter to everyone who pays tax in the county. So I'll be cognizant of that. But
Right.
on the other hand, is this project gonna get cheaper in 5 years? It's not. It's not.
Right.
So I want to do as much good as we can do.
Well, I think that's why,
So this is the cost of phasing it out. And so that adds $750,000.
In the meanwhile, if
But-
anyone in the county wants to play the lottery and donate
and
to
donate
the causes that matter,
Your funding options are limited.
They are.
Correct, and
Unless
even
you
when
wanna
you
go
talk
for a
to, the Des Moines Airport wants to expand, for instance, they can't even afford the construction costs, so they have to get outside donations even for the airport. I mean, construction costs are just insane these days, and they're only getting worse, and that's what we're really fighting against right now.
Okay, Laurie, if I'm selected to do the half-court shot at halftime of the basketball game tonight, and I make it,
you're donating,
you guys got it
you're writing
all.
a check.
I got the perfect bracket, so, for March Madness,
still attacked?
and I'm not donating.
Well, it's serious, like, it's sad that we have to deal with that, but there's limitations on how much we can transfer to the rural to the secondary roads department. There's limitations that we have to work within per the code. And it's not cheap, but
well, his budget should be more for operating, not
I
necessarily
agree.
just for construction.
we can do capital projects out of other funds.
Exactly.
I agree with that too. But I'm just saying we don't have unlimited capital funds. And I don't wanna hurt our credit rating for the upcoming expenses that we know are coming. It's the $20 million bond next issuance. So.
If it's that 4-12 pitch, or it's like a 2-12 pitch.
I think so, yeah. 212.
Would it cost a lot more to go 4-12?
Probably not.
Reason I ask is, because we went 4-12 on the fire station, the snow slides off. So if we have earth warming, and if the snow loads become crazy, it slides off and it'll save you from a collapse in the long
Yeah.
run.
We'll do some research on that. We talked to a company that represents Butler, and this was their standard,
Right.
and trying to keep the portals all bang, 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 bang the same, and try to be as efficient as we could with the structure.
Yeah.
And this is what they told us.
And then it gives you an opportunity for more insulation. Also, you're sprinkled, aren't you?
No.
What's not sprinkled?
No, I don't think we were required to, because of the utility building.
The maintenance building?
There's a firewall separated.
Yeah, we separated the maintenance might be sprinkled. I don't
The,
think so.
the mechanic shop is, it might be under the square footage where,
Mike, let me take that back, let me look. No, we don't have a sprinkler. drawing on here, so we don't have a sprinkler system. And when we divided the maintenance shop and the office area away from the heated storage, which then brought us down to basically 3 buildings that are connected together.
Right,
So,
and you got a 2-hour rating there.
all right.
Any other comments or questions from anyone?
How does the board feel, because we deal with, open meeting laws, and so we can't frequently discuss our thoughts with one another on what we wanna do, but I'd be real
Can right
curious.
here,
We can right here.
right here.
And so let's do it. I'd like to know what the other two think about doing a shop site and what your general thoughts are. I've sort of expressed my thoughts. I'm not shy about it. I don't care. So what, Crystal and Doug, what do you guys think about shop site?
You want me to go first?
Sure.
I've wanted to do this since I got here and I saw the shop site. I'd like to get it done. It could be done in 1 year, but that's at a huge sacrifice to a lot of other projects we have and our credit. I hate phasing it because of the cost, but at the same time, that's where we are at the county. And I'd rather move forward on something than have nothing done. So we're on that.
I think I would want us to consider doing it all at once. Maybe we have to wait till after the 20.4 million gets issued, and then have another issue to do this, because 5% or 10% a year or whatever it is, a lot of additional cost. A little bit painful, but
It is, but amortized over 20 years, I mean, it's
Would it save you money if you were to phase the office later, leave the office where it is now, and a year later or 2 years later put the office, finish that aspect out?
We don't actually include any plans for offices in this.
Well, I was thinking you have a break room and.
Oh,
We have a break room
Yeah, we have
in the maintenance office.
So it's a pretty small.
Yeah, his
Not
office
Yeah,
is here
it's
now.
not, yeah, it's kind of, a lot of times they show up and they're in there for 2 hours getting the day planned and then they're off on the roads. So it is an office setting, but it's not like they're, necessarily there full time.
And you're staying in the administration.
We're still, yeah, that does, to clarify, I guess it doesn't include plans to move our office, but there is gonna be office facilities there for a handful of people.
I mean, considering what Supervisor Scholl said, I would be willing, I know it costs money to do it, but I'd be willing to throw it to the voters on a referendum to say, here's what we need. I think that an issue like that might be better served if we pick, hate to be political, but 2 or 3 projects located at different points in the county that said, hey, let's do some road work on this or a bridge here or whatever, so that people in the county can all sort of get behind it. I'm willing to try that. In the event that that's not successful, I think we're probably looking at 60% for a vote needed. So I can't promise that would pass, but I'd rather amortize this out over 20 years. I'd rather have a debt levy where we did, instead of $6.7 million, we did $5.9 million and spread out over 20 years or whatever the math works out to be. And so that it's 6 cents per thousand, and on a $200,000 typical home in the county, you're looking at, with the rollback, 100, you're looking at, not a lot of money, $6 a year, $10 a year, whatever. I think people might be more willing to look at that, although
That way we can keep our reserves.
that way we don't have to just hammer the brains out of our reserves, but I don't know if it'll pass, I have no idea.
I'll finish my thought here.
Sure.
I don't see how you can take it out of reserves. I mean, you had the mudslide or landslide or whatever it was, that was $1,000,001. you got maybe a little more than 2 million. Be very difficult in the future probably to build additional reserves to phase in. I don't see how, if you did phase one, I don't know when you could do phase two and three. I think it's gonna get spread out a longer period of time, in my opinion. Now, I don't know about, I don't know how important it is. Obviously, we wanna sell the site, but I don't know what you can get out of it. And probably gonna take a while. Find somebody to, I don't see somebody putting condominiums in there or whatever. I just don't see that. It's gonna have to be city or something, hopefully.
And then, yeah, the city might wanna possibly expand their facility or get a little extra space in there. That looks like they're a little cramped.
And you could leave the fuel, if say the city got involved, you could leave the fuel
Fuel to
station
the
there.
city to administer.
Yep.
There is that cool little depot building too, that could be a nice trailhead in the city.
Well, but-
On the south side.
And it might be good for a barn or some other commercial operation, because it's on the bike path.
What was that?
It could be a bar or some other
Oh,
commercial
bar,
activity.
okay.
'Cause it's on
I
the
think
bike
about a
path.
shop site next to it, like.
When I say trailhead, that's in parentheses, it actually is a place to,
The economic development, that's how it was.
Well, with that, since we're now talking about bars and trailheads, I will make a motion to adjourn.
And of course, I would second that.
All right,
Okay, McIntyre,
yes,
Schultz,
Aye.
Deepak.
Aye.
thank you.